In China, a new spherical robot is helping police with security patrols and is equipped with advanced features.
You've seen it in movies. The idea of robots taking over specific jobs is no newer. However, when it comes to prison guards, that's a different story and would raise some eyebrows. China, as a technology-leading country, has started using artificial intelligence in their prison systems. Simulations for robot prisons for prisoners of heinous crimes are also circulating. If this happens in full scale, would it terrify the whole world of its implications? Let's break this down. Could robot guards be the future of Chinese prisons? When you think about prison security, your mind probably jumps to towering fences, stern-faced guards, and endless surveillance cameras. But what if some of those guards weren't human at all? In a world where artificial intelligence and robotics are making waves in everything from healthcare to fast food, it's not far-fetched to ask, could robot guards soon be patrolling prisons in China? China has never been shy about embracing technology, especially when it comes to public security. The country has already integrated facial recognition into everyday life, with AI-assisted surveillance systems monitoring streets, train stations, and even schools. In some urban areas, police already use robots to patrol malls and public squares, scanning faces and reporting anything unusual. In fact, some prisons in China have already dipped their toes into automation. For example, a detention center in Hangzhou reportedly introduced patrol robots that can detect abnormal behavior, check temperatures, and even issue warnings. These robots don't look like something out of a sci-fi movie. They're more like sleek kiosks on wheels with cameras and sensors. Still, they're a step toward replacing certain routine tasks, traditionally done by human guards. Why robot guards might actually be a good idea. First off, there's the money side of things. Robots, while not cheap to build and set up, don't need a paycheck. They don't get sick, they don't take vacations, and they don't need health insurance. Once they're up and running, they could seriously cut down on long-term costs. Then there's the fact that robots don't get tired or lose focus. Unlike human guards, they can patrol 24/7 without blinking an eye. They don't have emotions, biases, or personal opinions getting in the way, and they follow rules exactly as programmed. That kind of consistency is hard to beat, and there's also no risk of them being bribed or abusing their authority. Plus, robots can be loaded with tech that makes them incredibly observant. We're talking facial recognition, motion sensors, heat detection, the works. They can spot things human guards might miss and record everything as it happens. That means better surveillance, more evidence when something goes wrong, and fewer gaps in prison security. And let's not forget the role robots can play when health is on the line. During pandemics or disease outbreaks, robots could step in to take temperatures, deliver supplies, or sanitize areas, helping to reduce human contact and lower the risk of infection. That's something China paid close attention to during the COVID-19 crisis, so it's no surprise they're considering it for prisons too. But it's not all smooth sailing. As promising as it sounds, we shouldn't get carried away just yet. There are still a bunch of important reasons why robot guards aren't ready to run the whole show on their own. For one, human judgment is still crucial. A robot might detect raised voices or sudden movement, but it can't tell whether two inmates are about to fight or just having a heated debate. That kind of nuance is something only a human can really grasp. There's also the issue of cybersecurity. Robots are, after all, connected systems, which means they could be hacked. If someone were to gain control of the system, it could cause serious chaos inside a prison. That's a risk that can't be ignored. Then come the ethical questions. Is it okay to be constantly watched by emotionless machines? What happens to inmates' privacy and basic human rights when everything they do is being tracked by AI? Even in a controlled environment like a prison, these are important debates. And finally, there's the trust factor. Let's be real. How seriously would inmates take a robot guard? Robots can't build relationships or read body language. They can't diffuse a tense situation with a calm voice or a bit of empathy. In many cases, human presence is what keeps things from boiling over. Will Chinese prisons be staffed entirely by robots anytime soon? Probably not. But what we will likely see is a hybrid approach. Robots doing the repetitive, round-the-clock tasks like patrolling or monitoring, while human guards focus on the stuff that requires actual judgment and emotional intelligence. intelligence. Some facilities in China are already heading in that direction, testing out robots for simple duties. And considering how invested China is in using tech for governance and public safety, there's a good chance this trend will continue to grow. But even in a tech-forward country like China, this kind of change won't happen overnight. It's more of a slow shift than a sudden takeover, and honestly, that's probably for the best. For now, the Chinese government is taking advantage of the capacity of artificial intelligence in assisting some prison systems in their management and routine. How China is using high technology and AI behind bars. When we think about the future, our minds often go to things like flying cars, robot assistants, or high-tech cities full of glass buildings and neon lights. But in China, the future is arriving in a much more controlled and hidden environment: prisons. In recent years, China has been using its advanced technology, especially artificial intelligence, to reshape how prisons operate. It's no longer just about locking people up and putting guards on patrol. The entire prison system is being reimagined as a place where every movement, every word, and even every facial expression is tracked, analyzed, and recorded. The goal? To create a smart prison that runs more efficiently, prevents violence, and supposedly helps with rehabilitation. The most immediately noticeable feature of China's high-tech prisons is the surveillance, relentless, comprehensive, and AI-powered. In traditional prisons, there might be a few security cameras watching key locations like hallways or common areas. In a Chinese smart prison, however, cameras are absolutely everywhere. And these aren't just basic CCTV units. They're equipped with facial recognition, motion detection, and behavior analysis. Every time an inmate moves, the system takes note. Every facial twitch is logged. Some prisons even use software that can analyze body posture and emotional states, flagging anything that might suggest anger, distress, or even potential violence. This isn't just about monitoring for safety. These systems are designed to predict problems before they happen. If a prisoner spends too much time standing still in their cell, for example, the AI might assume something's wrong and alert staff. If someone starts pacing or raising their voice, the system might detect signs of agitation. In theory, this allows guards to intervene early and prevent incidents. But it also creates a deeply invasive environment where inmates are never truly alone or unobserved. Every moment is data to be mined. Behavior tracking and correction. Surveillance in these prisons doesn't just stop at watching, it also feeds into broader systems designed to shape behavior. Many inmates are required to wear smart wristbands or uniforms embedded with sensors that monitor heart rate, blood pressure, sleep patterns, and even stress levels. These metrics are fed into a central system that builds a behavioral profile for each individual. The goal is to identify not just misbehavior, but psychological trends or emotional instability that could lead to problems. What makes this even more intense is the scoring system used in some facilities. Think of it like a prison version of a social credit score. Inmates earn or lose points based on how they behave. Show up to rehabilitation programs. That's a point in your favor. Start a fight or refuse to follow orders. That's a deduction. These scores influence everything from privileges, like access to a TV or phone calls, to the possibility of early release. It creates a gamified version of rehabilitation where your future depends not just on your actions, but how well you fit the system's idea of good behavior. On the surface, it might seem like a smart way to incentivize order and cooperation, but this system raises serious concerns. What if the AI misinterprets a behavior or wrongly labels someone as non-compliant? What if stress levels rise for reasons unrelated to bad intent? There's a risk that technology begins to make decisions in ways that strip away human judgment, and that can be dangerous in a place where freedom is already severely limited. Now, let's move to automated administration. In the administrative side of prison life, AI is changing the game in a quieter but no less significant way. Traditional prisons often rely on piles of paperwork, human oversight, and lots of manual coordination. But in China's smart prisons, much of this is now being handled by software. AI systems can log inmate activities, file disciplinary actions, track rehabilitation progress, and manage visitation schedules. Even guard shifts can be assigned and monitored using biometric data like fingerprint scans or facial recognition. This automation can make the prison system more efficient and reduce human error. For instance, if an inmate is due for a parole hearing or has a court date coming up, the system can automatically alert the necessary parties. Some facilities even have AI chatbots that inmates can interact with to ask questions about their status, apply for medical attention, or check when they're due for a visit. These tasks used to take hours, or even days, of bureaucratic processing. The upside is clear: fewer mistakes, faster responses, and a leaner administrative process. But the downside is that inmates are interacting less with actual people. The more prisons rely on AI for day-to-day functioning, the more disconnected they become from human oversight. There's also concern about transparency. If an AI system makes a mistake or flags someone unfairly, who is held accountable? These are the types of questions that become increasingly important in a digitized correctional system. Even AI can function as therapists and in rehabilitation. Impressed yet? Hear this. Interestingly, AI is also being used in an area you might not expect: therapy and rehabilitation. In some Chinese prisons, inmates are encouraged or required to participate in digital counseling sessions. These are run by AI therapists that use conversational algorithms to guide prisoners through self-reflection exercises, cognitive behavioral therapy, or moral education courses. Some even use emotion recognition software to adapt responses based on how the inmate appears to feel. There are also AI-powered education systems that help inmates learn new skills or prepare for release. These platforms track the inmate's interests and learning pace, adapting the curriculum to be more personalized. For example, if someone shows a knack for technical skills, the system might guide them toward computer literacy or basic coding courses. All of this sounds great in theory, offering prisoners a real shot at reform and reintegration. But it's worth asking whether these AI tools can ever replace real human counselors. Emotional healing, especially for those who've been through trauma or made serious life mistakes, is a deeply human process. AI can assist, but it can't empathize. It can follow a script, but it can't truly connect. And in a prison system already built on control and conformity, reducing therapy to a software program risks turning rehabilitation into just another box to check off. The technology being used in Chinese prisons may be advanced, but it's also deeply controversial. Human rights groups have repeatedly criticized the Chinese government for turning prisons into testing grounds for surveillance and control technologies. Inmates, especially political prisoners or ethnic minorities like Uyghurs, are often subjected to extreme forms of monitoring. For these individuals, high-tech prisons are not about safety or rehabilitation, they're about repression. Another major concern is privacy. Inmates, by definition, lose a lot of their rights when they're incarcerated. But does that mean they should be treated as data points? Should every heartbeat, every glance, every word be monitored, stored, and used to evaluate their worth? These are big questions without easy answers. And as this technology improves, it becomes harder to resist. After all, who's going to argue against a system that promises fewer fights, fewer escapes, and more efficient operations? There's also the global angle. China is already exporting its surveillance technology to other countries, especially in Africa, Southeast Asia, and parts of Eastern Europe. Some of these countries may adopt similar systems in their own prisons. That means what starts in China might soon spread worldwide, bringing this new model of high-tech incarceration to prisons everywhere. In many ways, what's happening in Chinese prisons is a reflection of a broader global trend. Technology is creeping into every corner of our lives, from the phones in our pockets to the cameras on our streets. But when it comes to prisons, the stakes are even higher. These are places where people are already under control. Adding AI into the mix makes that control total. There's no denying the benefits. Smart prisons can be safer, more efficient, and even offer more structured rehabilitation programs. But they can also be cold, unfeeling places where judgment is handed down by algorithms and mistakes are buried in lines of code. Rehabilitation becomes a matter of data compliance, not human growth. So, are high-tech prisons a glimpse of a better future or a warning sign? That's a question each society will have to answer for itself. But one thing is certain: The era of AI behind bars is here, and it's not going away anytime soon. In fact, other countries started trying it already and paving way for robot guards' possibility. Robot prison guards around the world. Who's using them and why? Yep, that's a thing now. Some countries are turning to robots to help watch over inmates, and while it might sound like something out of a sci-fi movie, it's already happening. In today's world, where technology is practically running the show, even prisons are getting a high-tech makeover. One of the more unexpected changes? Robot prison guards. Let's take a look at a few countries that are ahead of the game when it comes to putting robots to work in prisons. South Korea, leading the charge in robotic corrections. South Korea has long been at the forefront of integrating advanced technology into public infrastructure, and its criminal justice system is no exception. In 2012, the country made headlines when it launched a pioneering trial program involving robotic prison guards in the southeastern city of Pohang. This marked one of the earliest real-world applications of robotics in correctional facilities, a bold experiment aimed at enhancing safety and efficiency in prisons. But forget the image of towering, intimidating robots from science fiction. These robotic guards were designed to be far more approachable. Standing about 5 feet tall and moving on wheels, they resembled oversized vacuum cleaners, more than they did anything from the Terminator. Each unit featured a touchscreen interface on its front, giving it a vaguely humanoid appearance, but it was clear that intimidation was not the goal. Instead, the robots were developed to serve primarily as surveillance and communication tools. Equipped with a suite of cameras and sensors, they continuously monitored the prison environment for unusual or suspicious behavior. For example, if an inmate appeared agitated, made aggressive movements, or showed signs of distress, the robot could detect these cues and immediately notify human guards. This allowed for faster response times in potentially dangerous situations, and in some cases, even preventative intervention. Importantly, the purpose of the robots was not to replace human personnel, but to support them. By acting as an extra set of eyes and ears, the robots helped reduce the workload on correctional officers, many of whom face high levels of stress and burnout. The hope was that the robotic assistants would not only improve inmate safety, but also contribute to a healthier, more manageable working environment for prison staff. The trial also explored the potential for the robots to engage in basic communication with inmates, using their screen interfaces to convey information or allow prisoners to report concerns directly. This feature could be especially valuable in scenarios where human interaction is limited due to safety concerns or staffing shortages. Although the pilot program was relatively short-lived and did not immediately lead to widespread adoption, it opened the door for broader discussions around the role of robotics and AI in criminal justice systems. It demonstrated how non-lethal, supportive technology could be used to enhance oversight and improve conditions in environments that are often understaffed and overburdened. In the years since, other countries and private companies have taken note, experimenting with similar technologies in correctional facilities, hospitals, and even schools. While South Korea's robot prison guards may have seemed novel or even quirky at the time, they were a sign of things to come, a future where humans and machines work side by side to maintain order and safety in some of society's most complex institutions. United Arab Emirates, UAE, high-tech prisons in a futuristic nation. The United Arab Emirates has long cultivated a reputation for embracing cutting-edge technology and ambitious innovation, from soaring skyscrapers like the Burj Khalifa to plans for Martian cities and AI-driven governance. The UAE consistently positions itself as a global leader in futurism. Naturally, this forward-thinking mindset extends into its public services, including law enforcement and corrections. One notable example of this is the incorporation of robotics and artificial intelligence into Dubai's police force, and, increasingly, into the country's prison system. While the use of robots in UAE prisons may not yet mirror the patrolling prototypes tested in South Korea, the trend is unmistakable. The groundwork for a high-tech correctional environment is steadily being laid. In Dubai, robots have already taken on a variety of supporting roles in law enforcement. These include tasks such as scanning and processing visitors at police stations or detention centers, conducting administrative duties, and assisting with basic security functions like ID verification and metal detection. These robotic systems often work in tandem with biometric scanners and facial recognition technology, providing a layer of automation that enhances both efficiency and accuracy. Within the prison context, robots are being explored as tools to reduce human workload, streamline bureaucratic processes, and bolster internal security protocols. While they aren't yet patrolling cell blocks or interacting directly with inmates on a regular basis, their presence in correctional facilities is growing, quietly but steadily. For instance, robotic kiosks can help manage scheduling for inmate visits or serve as information terminals for both inmates and staff. These may seem like minor functions, but in a system where human resources are often stretched thin, even small efficiencies can make a significant difference. This shift is part of a much larger, government-backed initiative to integrate AI and robotics across public services. The UAE has launched national strategies aimed at becoming a global leader in artificial intelligence by 2031. This includes deploying smart systems in healthcare, education, transportation, and law enforcement. Correctional institutions, with their complex logistics and high operational costs, are a logical next step for technological innovation. Supporters argue that this kind of digitization brings numerous benefits: improved security through constant surveillance, reduced opportunities for human error, and lower operating costs over time. Additionally, automation can help reduce human stress and burnout, particularly in high-pressure environments like prisons. However, there are also concerns. As with any system that relies heavily on technology, questions arise about data privacy, ethical oversight, and the risk of over-reliance on machines in environments that require human empathy and judgment. The UAE's rapid embrace of surveillance technologies, for instance, has drawn criticism from human rights organizations that worry about the balance between security and civil liberties. Nonetheless, the use of robotics in the UAE's correctional facilities reflects a larger trend: the slow but steady transformation of prisons into high-tech institutions. While robots aren't running the place yet, their roles are expanding, and their presence signals a future where smart technology is deeply embedded in every aspect of criminal justice. As the UAE continues to push boundaries in AI and robotics, its prison system serves as a fascinating case study in how nations can blend futuristic aspirations with the age-old challenge of managing law, order, and rehabilitation. Robots for top security prisons. When we think of top security prisons, we usually picture something out of a thriller movie: rows of heavily fortified walls, armed guards in watchtowers, and security cameras monitoring every corner. But what if I told you that some of those guards might not even be human? Over the past decade or so, a few countries have started experimenting with robots in their prisons, mostly as a way to assist human staff, but still, the idea is out there. So, is having robot prison guards a good idea for top security prisons? Well, first off, robots can be pretty amazing when it comes to keeping an eye on things. In high-stress environments like maximum security prisons, having extra eyes constantly scanning for signs of trouble could make a big difference. Robots are typically equipped with cameras, sensors, and even facial recognition technology, making them great at spotting suspicious behavior or warning signs that something's about to go down. For example, if an inmate starts acting aggressively or is in distress, a robot can pick up on it instantly and alert human guards before things escalate. It's like having an extra layer of security that's always watching, never gets tired, and doesn't need a break. Robots also have the potential to ease the workload of prison staff. Correctional officers in maximum security prisons are often under extreme pressure, dealing with dangerous and volatile situations every day. They have to keep track of everything from inmate behavior to cell inspections, and it can be overwhelming. If robots can take care of the repetitive tasks, like monitoring hallways, scanning visitors, or conducting routine checks. They can free up human guards to focus on more high-stakes situations that actually require their judgment and expertise. Another big plus is that robots don't need rest. They don't get tired after 12-hour shifts or experience fatigue, which is a real concern for human guards working in prisons. In high-security facilities, where every moment counts, having robots that can work around the clock without missing a beat could be a game-changer. They can patrol the grounds, monitor areas that are tough for humans to access, and maintain constant vigilance without the risk of burnout. When robots fall short, what's going to happen? Of course, as with any new technology, there are a few concerns that come with putting robots in such a sensitive environment. For one, robots don't have the ability to make nuanced, judgment-based decisions. They're programmed to react to certain stimuli, like aggressive movement or distress signals, but they can't interpret situations the way a human guard can. In a prison, especially one with high-risk inmates, there's often a lot of grey area. Maybe two inmates are having a heated argument that looks like a fight to a robot, but in reality, it's just a misunderstanding. A human guard could step in, assess the situation, and resolve it without it ever becoming violent. A robot, on the other hand, might overreact and escalate things unnecessarily. Also, robots are only as good as the technology behind them. What happens if something malfunctions, glitches, or gets hacked? In a top-security prison, any technological failure could be catastrophic. Imagine a robot that's responsible for monitoring a vulnerable part of the prison suddenly going offline, leaving a blind spot that could be exploited by inmates. Or worse, what if someone hacks into the system and manipulates the robots to disable security features? These are real risks that need to be considered before we fully rely on robots for something as critical as prison security. And then there's the human element. Even though robots are great at performing repetitive tasks, there are situations in prison where human judgment, empathy, and quick thinking are required. If an inmate is acting out or experiencing a mental health crisis, a robot can't offer the emotional support or intervention that a trained human guard can. Guards who build relationships with inmates, who can diffuse tension through communication, play a crucial role in maintaining order. Robots can't replace that level of human connection, and that's something we shouldn't overlook. Thus, are robots a good idea for top-security prisons? Well, it depends on how they're used. Robots are not about replacing human guards, and they certainly shouldn't be used to run the show. But as support tools, they could be incredibly helpful. Think of them as high-tech assistants that help lighten the load on human staff. They can patrol the grounds, monitor cameras, and even interact with inmates in basic ways, freeing up guards to focus on the situations that require their experience and judgment. Robots could also improve efficiency in places where human presence isn't always necessary. For example, they could handle administrative tasks like scheduling inmate visits, processing paperwork, or scanning for contraband. That's all stuff that takes time and energy for human guards to do. But robots can manage these tasks quickly and accurately, allowing the guards to concentrate on security and crisis management. At the end of the day, we should view robot guards more as a supplement than a replacement. The ideal setup would be one where robots handle the routine, repetitive tasks, while human guards stay in charge of the bigger decisions and more complex interactions. By combining the strengths of both human and machine, prisons could be safer, more efficient, and less stressful for everyone involved. A balanced approach. As technology continues to improve, we may see more robots working alongside human guards in prisons, but it's important to move carefully. Robots should never be in charge of life or death decisions or dealing with the emotional complexities of incarceration. They should be tools, smart, efficient, and capable, but not the main players in prison security. Humans should still be at the center of any correctional facility, managing the high-stakes situations that robots simply can't handle. Prison robot guards aren't a bad idea in theory, but they should never fully replace the human touch that's essential to managing top-security prisons. Instead, think of them as a step toward a future where technology and humans work hand-in-hand to create safer, more efficient correctional environments. As for China, it has been using advanced tech in its prison system, including AI-powered surveillance and automated systems. While full-blown robot guards haven't been widely reported, the country does use facial recognition, biometric scanners, and even AI systems to monitor prisoners' movements and behavior. Some prisons in China are already starting to explore the use of robots for basic tasks. Given how much China prioritizes technology in areas like governance and public safety, it's likely this approach will keep expanding. There have been some experimental robots used in law enforcement and security roles, and it wouldn't be a huge leap to see those make their way into prisons if they haven't already. Do you think this is a good idea? Share your comments down below and support us by subscribing to the channel.